Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. We all know that studying in the US is expensive for a lot of students. But the fact of the matter is that even applying in the US can cost a lot of money, regardless of whether you're planning to pursue a bachelor's, master's, PhD or MBA program. Today, I'll show you the reality of applying to universities and colleges in the US by breaking down exactly how much money I spent during the whole US college application process, from buying preparation material for the standardized test to paying the report sending fees for the financial aid applications. Not just that, I'll show you how I saved more than $1,000 during the whole process and how you can do the same when you apply. If you're planning to apply in the US, do watch this video till the end, as you'll get a complete overview of the different types of expenses, how much each of them would cost you, and the approximate amount you'd be spending by the end of your application journey. With that being said, let's get started. When people say that you can win 100% scholarships to study abroad or get full financial aid at a top US university, many a time they entirely ignore or fail to inform you about the actual costs of the application process. That's why many students have no idea about what it takes both mentally and financially to apply for competitive opportunities, especially at US institutions. I was once at your place and assumed that it wouldn't take much in terms of money to apply to universities in the US, but I was wrong. Like many students, I didn't know that before being able to complete my application and apply for different opportunities, I need to be ready to incur various costs, including exam registration fees, purchases of preparation resources, coaching payment, application fees, score sending fees, and more. Yes, it is possible to study for free at different universities if you get a full scholarship or financial aid, but you can't apply entirely for free. While some costs such as the application fee and financial aid fee can be waived off in the US college application process depending on your financial condition, not all costs can be eliminated, especially if you are an international student. Now, before we dive into our first expense, let me tell you that I applied to top US universities for the fall of 2021 as an Indian international student. Whatever expenses I am going to share are the expenses I had to bear based on my unique background and situation. The amount of money you'll be paying during the application process will be different and will depend on your background, financial condition, application cycle, number of applications, country of residence, and other factors. Hence, take my expenses data as a rough guide, not as a 100% accurate depiction of what students paid during the US college application process. What I suggest you to do is to create your college expenses list as you watch this video to see how much your college application journey would likely cost you. If you want, you can comment below how many universities you're planning to target this year and how much you're expecting to pay. It would be interesting to see how much the cost for the same process varies for different students. Let's talk about the first direct cost you'd be having in your college application process. It's the registration fee for the standardized tests. Even though many US universities have gone test optional with the SAT and ACT, which means it's up to you whether or not you want to send your SAT and ACT scores to a school, there are a couple of universities that may still require the standardized test scores. Now, if you decide not to take any of the standardized tests for your college applications based on the requirements of your colleges, you won't have to worry about the registration fee for the standardized tests. However, if you're someone who's keeping their options open and want to make their profile competitive for admission into top US universities, you would have definitely decided to take a standardized test, either SAT, ACT, or both. In my view, I would recommend every student, especially international students, to take a standardized test because a good score really helps your application, and every possible chance of standing out from a crowd in a competitive application pool is worth taking. So, once you make up your mind to take a standardized test for your college applications, your first expense would be the registration fee for the SAT, ACT, or both. And this would vary depending on the test you are taking and the number of times you'd be taking it. As for me, I took the SAT without the essay only once on 9th December 2019 and registered for it on 27th September 2019. The registration for the SAT cost me 98.5 US dollars, which is equal to 7,700 Indian rupees based on the current exchange rate. Additionally, I took two SAT subject tests, one in mathematics level 2 and second in physics. I registered for the SAT subject test the same day I registered for the SAT general, which was 27th September 2019, and both the tests took place a month before the SAT General on 2nd November 2019. The two subject tests cost me $119, which is equal to 9,300 rupees. But of course, those were pre-pandemic times and SAT subject tests were a part of the admission process, so I had to worry about their expense. Now, the good news is that you don't have to worry about it as SAT subject tests no longer happen. College Board discontinued them a long time ago in January 2021 to reduce college application demands on students. Moreover, they also discontinued the SAT with essay, so you don't have to worry about that too. Currently, the SAT without essay exists and ACT with and without the essay exists. My total expense from the standardized tests was 217.5 US dollars or about 17,000 Indian rupees. Yours will be much less since you won't have to take the SAT subject tests. Also, remember that the registration charges for these tests will differ for you as they vary from country to country and change over time. They have changed in India since I appeared for the examination in 2019 and may have changed in other countries as well. So do refer to the official websites of the ACT and College Board for the current pricing of the tests. Now, you might be wondering if it's possible to get a fee waiver for the registration fees of the standardized tests. And the answer depends on where you are coming from. If you are a low-income 11th or 12th grade student residing in the US or US territories, you can get the ACT fee waiver and the College Board's official SAT fee waiver. Both come along with some other benefits such as free learning resources, the ability to send your test scores to multiple universities free of charge, etc. If you get any of the fee waivers, you won't have to pay a single cent for the registration of these tests. However, this is only true for low-income students in the US who meet certain eligibility criteria set by the College Board and the ACT. In case you need more details, I'll link the official fee waiver pages for both the tests in the description below. But what about people living in places other than the US states and territories? As of now, only US citizens living in other countries can get the official fee waivers. So if you are living in a foreign nation and applying as an international student, unfortunately, you are not eligible to apply for them. However, some third-party organizations in different countries do offer SAT fee waiver from their end. I don't know much about other countries, but in India, a scholarship platform named Buddy for Study has partnered with the College Board to offer 90% and 50% SAT fee waivers to low-income Indian students in grade 11th and 12th. Officially, it's called the College Board India Scholars Program, and it also comes with some cool benefits like 100% tuition scholarships at some of the best Indian universities for students who score above 1300 on the SAT. I'll be making a detailed video on this program, but for now, I'll put the link to the scholarship program in the description if you are interested in learning more about it. So if you get this scholarship from College Board or any other unofficial fee waiver, you can substantially decrease your registration charges for the SAT. Once you register for any of the standardized tests, be it the SAT or the ACT, you need to have a solid plan of preparation. And preparation can happen for free by getting books issued from your school library, using free online resources like Khan Academy, or it can happen through paid practice material in the form of books or online programs. Some students get really high scores using just free practice material on Khan Academy, whereas others achieve equally awesome scores using prep books. Everybody is different, and what works for someone may or may not work for others, because each and every person's plan of preparation depends on their current abilities, learning style, amount of time they have, and how much they are willing to spend on the preparation. If you have a tight budget or you are already scoring well, you might want to go ahead with preparation using free resources, and that's great. But if you're someone like me who wants to study everything, including topics, questions, tips, and strategies, and doesn't want to miss out on anything, you might want to spend some money on prep books, which is equally awesome. I started my SAT general preparation in the middle of my senior year of high school, and for the most part, I prepared online using Khan Academy's free resources. Later, I found the soft copies of some SAT books and the official practice tests on Google and included them in my preparation. However, I faced various problems using online material. For example, I couldn't write on a soft copy the way I could scribble on a hard copy, and I couldn't practice the official SAT practice test emulating the exam conditions because the practice tests were on the computer. But the test doesn't happen on a screen, rather it happens on paper. Therefore, I decided to get the printouts of all the College Board's official practice tests for the SAT, except the first practice test which I had already attempted online. At that time, there were 8 official practice tests, but now College Board has added 2 more practice tests on their website, which means there are a total of 10 official practice tests that you can download for free from College Board's website. By the way, it's completely legal to print the SAT's official practice test for personal use, not for commercial use. Remember, only for personal use, no buying and selling here. I got the hard copy of all the official practice tests and I didn't have to pay for it because my school's principal was kind enough to approve my request to get the printout from the school's resource room. I requested the printed copy on 24th September 2019 and it took a while for them to compile the papers since there were 464 pages in total. 4 days later, on 28th September 2019, I got all the practice papers neatly bound and collected in the form of a thick book. If my school's principal hadn't approved this, it would have costed me around 500 rupees for the hard copy. Apart from Khan Academy and the official practice tests, I didn't use anything else for my SAT exam preparation because I didn't think it was necessary. That was a mistake, let's not get into that, it's a story for some other time. As for the SAT subject test preparation, my school teacher told me that the school curriculum, IB Physics HL and Math HL would be sufficient for the tests and I wouldn't need any extra preparation for those exams. However, after looking at a few practice tests and watching YouTube videos on the SAT subject tests, I noticed a disparity between the IB syllabus and the topics that are covered in the SAT Math and Physics tests. So I decided to buy SAT subject test books for both the tests as they had all the up-to-date practice tests, tips, strategies and topic explanations in one place, and I wouldn't have to constantly juggle between what's there and what's not there in my grade 12 syllabus and the SAT subject test contents. I wanted to buy all the books that were being recommended by students online, but neither did I have the money to buy them nor the time to go through them, so I zeroed down to 4 books. Barron's SAT subject test books for Math Level 2 and Physics, and College Board's official study guide for SAT Math Level 2 and Physics subject tests. The 4 books cost a total of 4,676 rupees at that time, but before buying them, I searched the school library for SAT preparation books. There were a lot of them, all old ones, no latest versions. So I thought of an idea. On 24th September 2019, I sent an email to my school principal. In it, I talked about my SAT exam preparation and mentioned how the latest SAT books would help me and help the school's upcoming classes. He reviewed my request and approved it. On 14th October 2019, the books arrived at the school and I immediately got them issued in my name from the school library. If you want to know how I convinced him, you can read my full email on my blog, which I will link below. By the way, my school principal was quite supportive. Some schools aren't that supportive of your goals, so you need to request things accordingly. Basically, I would have spent 4,676 rupees or approximately $60 on the SAT subject test books if my school principal hadn't approved the request. As of now, SAT subject tests do not exist, so you don't need to worry about buying prep books for them. Also, I didn't buy any books for the SAT General, but you can decide whether or not you want to buy them based on your specific situation. If you do decide to buy them, it would likely be your second expense in the US college application process. Moving on to the third expense of the application process, and this expense will only be applicable to non-native English speakers who want to study in the United States. It is the registration fee for an English language proficiency test. Now, majority of the universities in the United States and other English-speaking countries require students to take an English language test like IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo English test, etc. to prove that they have sufficient command over the English language. However, some institutions will not require you to do so, or they might exempt you from the English requirement based on your background or high school curriculum. For instance, I got my English proficiency requirement exempted by a number of US universities because I scored a 7 in IB English BHL. But that's not the whole picture. Whether your universities require or don't require you to take an English language proficiency test, the US immigration officer who gives the final approval for your study through the student visa, will unconditionally require you to prove your English proficiency through either the IELTS exam or the TOEFL test. Even though many US institutions accept the Duolingo English test for their English requirement, currently no online English test is accepted by the US Immigration Department for the study visa. So, like it or not, as a non-native English speaker, you'll need to take one or the other English test to prove your proficiency in the language. And in order to do that, you'll need to first register for the test, which will cost you a few $100. That doesn't sound much, but you'll know how much money that is in a minute. Again, I took my IELTS exam in the senior year of my high school on 14th December 2019, which was within a week after my SAT. I registered for the IELTS exam on 14th November 2019, and at that time registering for the test cost 13,250 rupees or approximately 170 US dollars according to the current exchange rates. If this looks expensive, you won't love to hear that the registration charges for the IELTS test in India have increased to 14,700 rupees or about $188. That's an increase of 1,450 rupees within 2 years. I don't know if that's justified or not, but this is the reality. You have to pay this much if you plan to take your IELTS test in India. Now, I didn't have to take the TOEFL exam, but I do know that TOEFL's examination fee when compared with IELTS is more or less the same. And like the SAT, the pricing for these international English tests also varies depending on your location. But it ranges from $150 to $250. So check the registration fee for these tests in your country when creating your expenses list. Unfortunately, neither IELTS nor TOEFL provides official fee waivers to waive the examination fees for international students in need. So you can consider this a mandatory expense in the US college application process if you are a non-native English speaker. Most people in the West do not know that a lot of non-native English speakers in India take coaching classes to prepare for their IELTS and TOEFL exams. According to Tribune India, just in the Indian state of Punjab, the number of institutes offering IELTS coaching have increased almost 5 times in the past 5 years. The surge of IELTS coaching institutes and the craze of IELTS coaching classes is unprecedented all over India. But this is not it. These IELTS centers charge between 2,000 and 20,000 rupees per month for their IELTS classes. And a student on average takes 2 months of IELTS classes for their preparation. Of course, all of this is also true for TOEFL exam prep, and this scene is taking place in almost all South Asian countries. But is it worth spending thousands of rupees for coaching classes on top of spending thousands of rupees for the registration of these exams? The answer is yes and no. Coaching classes do help a lot of students who lack foundational skills in the English language and need one-on-one guidance to tackle their problems. And I think coaching classes are especially useful for the writing and speaking sections of these English tests, as you can get personalized feedback from the instructors on your weaknesses and how you can improve on them for the test. Since it is so expensive to register for these tests, many students think that it would be better to take expensive coaching classes instead of failing and registering for the test again, which would cost a lot of money. And that's a valid argument. On a side note, if you plan to take coaching classes, I have a small suggestion for you. Before you put your money into a coaching institute, take a few demo classes to decide whether it is worth it for you or not, then accordingly make a final decision. Now, on the other hand, if you are a student with a good foundation in the English language and you don't have a lot of problems with English communication in the form of reading, writing, listening and speaking, then you don't need to go to coaching classes for your IELTS or TOEFL exam preparation. There is a ton of free practice material available on the internet which you can use for practice. Remember, coaching institutes don't invent new stuff. Most of the time, they provide you with the same practice material that's available online in a more organized format. Also, if you have time and are willing to spend a few dollars, you can consider buying preparation material for your test prep. Personally, for my IELTS exam study, I found books published by Cambridge to be the most helpful. The reason I'm telling you this is to reiterate that preparation depends on our current abilities, learning style, time frame and budget. For example, I might be comfortable with self-studying using books. Another person might join a coaching institute for their prep. A third person might see this as unnecessary and an online prep course might suffice their need. Maybe you have good English skills and free practice material is sufficient for you to prep for IELTS, but probably you don't have good math skills and need personalized help and support in the form of coaching to prepare for SAT. Again, everybody is different and will have different preparation plan. Now, I don't have anything against coaching classes, but I have a problem with this popular trend of joining coaching classes because it also lures students who don't need them. Many students spend their valuable time and money on coaching classes even though they are completely unnecessary for them. Because this trend of getting coaching for IELTS and TOEFL has created a social pressure where if you haven't joined these classes, you feel like you are missing out on important things. Some students even feel that they can't do well on the test without taking these classes. What's worse, many middle and low income students are going out of their way to pay for these classes. I'm saying this because I have experienced it firsthand when I decided to go with the trend. I had a couple of coaching centers for the IELTS and SAT preparation in my city. However, SAT coaching was extremely expensive for me then. It was 25,000 rupees or about $320. So taking coaching classes for the SAT was instantly out of question. However, a friend of mine was taking IELTS coaching classes at a local coaching center. And I felt this pressure that maybe I'm missing out on many things necessary for the IELTS test. I did not take the time to look at the test format and thought that the coaching center had all the answers as well as various secret tips and tricks and strategies that will surely help me as the exam. Within a few days, I decided to enroll at the IELTS coaching center and paid 6,500 rupees or approximately $83 for the IELTS classes. I think the classes were worth it for my friend, but they weren't worth it for me because one, they were too expensive compared to the mentorship they offered, and two, I didn't need IELTS coaching classes at my level of English proficiency as IB English classes and SAT preparation material were enough to cover most of the skills tested on the IELTS test, except for English speaking skills which I practiced daily in school as part of the student council. I wasn't aware of these things then, which led to this cost. One of the lessons that you can extrapolate for yourself here is to become aware of the application process as much as possible beforehand in terms of what options you have, what to expect from the things in the process, etc. I hope this video is somewhat helping you with that. If yes, do smash the like button so this video reaches out to other students as well and helps them out too. I won't say the IELTS classes were completely unnecessary as I learned a lot of things about the English language. Some of the instructors were really awesome and I had some really valuable discussions with them which I still remember to this day. But I remembered my main lesson, that IELTS classes were not for me. Most of you don't know this, but I gave the IELTS exam again in 2022, 2 years after I first took it in high school, and scored 7.5 in just 30 days of preparation without coaching, just using free online practice material. If you want a video on that, do let me know in the comments below. Therefore, see where you stand in terms of your English language abilities and then decide whether something is a waste of resources for you or is genuinely helpful for you. Once you meet the standardized testing and English proficiency requirements and fully complete your application, it's time to review and click the submit button on your application. However, submitting your application often comes with a cost in the form of an application fee. This fee is a non-refundable amount that you need to pay to an institution so that they can consider your application for admission. It varies from college to college and university to university. According to US News, the application fee at US institutions varies from $0 to $100, with the average application fee being $45. But that's not the whole picture. 64 schools with the highest application fees in the United States charge an application fee of at least $75. And these schools with the highest application fees includes top-ranked US universities like MIT, Stanford, Ivies, etc. Let me share with you another stat. According to research.com, after 2014, almost 36% of the first-time college applicants sent applications to 7 or more colleges. Now we are in 2022, where competition is the highest it's ever been. Acceptance rates are hitting a new low every year, and students are sending applications to not 7 or 8 but 15 to 20 schools. Imagine for a second if you are applying to just 10 of the top US colleges. How much would it cost you? Considering the average application fee of $78 at top US colleges, it would end up costing you $780. This is how much you would be spending in just the application fees. This makes the application fee one of the biggest, if not the biggest, expense in the US college application process. But only for those who can afford it. Fortunately, the application fee expense will not exist for you if you don't have the means to pay for it. Thanks to the generosity of US universities and application portals like the Common App, who are removing these barriers and giving everyone the opportunity to apply in the US without the financial burden of the application fees. Let me explain. There is no doubt about the fact that the application fees at US institutions are pretty high for low income students in the United States and low to middle income families in the developing world. But if paying the application fee would cause a financial hardship to you and your family, you can get it waived through the school specific fee waiver or an application portal's fee waiver. School specific fee waivers are for specific students who meet very specific eligibility criteria and can only be used to apply to that school. For example, NYU's application fee waiver for military veterans. However, application portals fee waivers like the Common App fee waiver and the Coalition App fee waiver can be used to apply to a lot of schools for free if you meet the fee waiver eligibility criteria. In case you don't know, the Common App and the Coalition App are online portals allowing students to apply to multiple universities for undergraduate studies in the United States from a single platform. The Coalition App fee waiver can only be used by domestic students, whereas the Common App fee waiver can be used by anyone, regardless of their nationality, citizenship, or country. No wonder why most international students apply through the Common App. But this does not mean that you can easily get a Common App fee waiver, because there are some eligibility criteria that you need to meet before you can get it. I got the Common App fee waiver and applied to multiple universities for free. No matter whether you are a domestic student or an international student, if you want to understand everything about the Common App fee waiver and how to get it for up to 20 universities, I definitely recommend you watch my step-by-step tutorial on it by clicking the link up here or down in the description below after you watch this video till the end. Now, I applied to a total of 12 American universities that offer full financial aid to international students through the Common App, except for MIT, which isn't on the Common App. But let's suppose I didn't know about the Common App fee waiver or didn't apply for it correctly. In that case, the total application fees for all the US universities that I would have paid is $855 or about 66,850 rupees, which means that it would have been almost impossible for me to apply to as many as 11 top American universities. Again, I say 11 because MIT isn't on the Common App, but it does have its own school specific fee waiver on its portal, which by the way is much easier to get than the Common App fee waiver. I got MIT's application fee waiver as well and have discussed it in my Common App fee waiver video, so do refer to the same video if you want to know more about it. The fee waiver I received from Common App helped me save a ton of money, and if you are eligible, I suggest you too should use it. It can be used for any institution you want to apply to as long as that particular institution is listed there on the Common App. So it doesn't matter whether the university is need blind or need aware to international students. If you get the Common App fee waiver, you can send your application to any institution listed there and as many as 20 of them. Let's say you got the Common App fee waiver or the Coalition App fee waiver and you send your applications to the universities of your choice. Now, what happens next? Most universities will start reviewing your profile based on the self-reported grades you added in your application, but will need an official transcript issued by your exam conducting organization to verify the subjects and grades you reported. Now, if you have applied with your predicted grades in grade 12th and don't have the final high school transcript yet, don't worry. Whenever the official transcript becomes available, share it with the university as they will use it to check that you maintained your academic performance during the rest of the school year. Most universities in the US and other study destinations accept both paper and electronic transcripts from all over the world that are sent through authorized channels. However, due to COVID-19, universities stopped taking mailed paper transcripts, and even the ones that accepted them, students have experienced delays in the delivery and processing of their transcripts. So, before you choose the delivery mode for your transcripts, whether it should be in paper or electronic format, Do take the time to check with each and every university you are applying to and see what delivery mode they accept and what they prefer for faster processing. Every university has different requirements and you need to be aware of them before taking action. Personally, I suggest you send your transcripts electronically if your universities are accepting them and if it's convenient to you with regards to your education system, as it is processed faster and rarely gets delayed. With this background in mind, let me tell you a few general guidelines that you need to know about sending transcripts to US universities. Firstly, they do not accept unofficial scanned copies of high school transcripts in most cases. And many top universities do not even accept official transcripts that students send through their personal email addresses. However, some universities do accept unofficial transcripts as part of self-reporting your grades. Still, in the end, they too ask you for official transcripts from your exam conducting institution to verify the records. Secondly, a high school transcript in a language other than English, probably your mother tongue, must be submitted with official English translations. Thirdly, mailed transcripts are only considered official by most universities when they are in a sealed school envelope with the authorizing school's signature and the official seal of the issuing institution. Fourthly, every university has strict regulations regarding tampering with high school transcripts. So if they get to know that you are not being honest with your transcripts or lied about the information you presented in your application, they may terminate your admission and dismiss you from their university even while you are studying. Fifth, and this is something I love about US universities compared to other schools, they are really flexible with their requirements. If something isn't working for you, they won't say, hey, just do it no matter what. In most cases, they consider your request and offer you an alternative route. Why am I telling you this? Some universities also accept official transcripts over email. Yes, not from you or through your email address, but from your school official and through the email address associated with the sending institution. For instance, Yale University's president has a custom email address, that is president@yale.edu. It is not associated with an email provider like Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, etc. So in most cases, your school official needs to have their custom email address associated with your school and they'll be able to send the transcripts. The universities offer this alternative route to students who cannot send their official transcripts for some reason. To give you an example, Princeton University is one of the Ivy League schools that accept transcripts from school officials and counselors. You can visit the official websites or email the universities of your choice to learn more about their transcript requirement. Lastly, some universities and colleges in the US also request mid-year reports, including the Semester 1 and Semester 2 reports for your junior and senior years of high school. Personally, the US universities I applied to did not ask me to submit any official mid-year reports, they just wanted me to self-report my mid-year grades on the Common App. As I said, these are general guidelines and you must check with the universities of your choice to get a better idea about their requirements concerning transcripts. Since I did the IB diploma program, which is an international program that's recognized worldwide, I was required to send the official transcript of my final results directly from the IB. Now, IB has an online portal where students can request a copy of their official transcript to be sent to any institute of higher education, either in paper or electronic format. It is a paid service that costs $17 for each transcript a student requests, regardless of the format. Let's say I want to send my transcripts to 4 universities electronically. Then I'll have to place a separate request for each institution on IB's transcript request portal and they will charge me 17 times 4, which is $68 to send my official transcripts to 4 universities. However, before the IB diploma results are released, an IB student can request 6 transcripts to be sent to 6 universities anywhere in the world, free of charge. But there is one condition, that only 3 institutions can be selected from US and Canada, and from those 3, only one can be selected from the US. In 2019, before I took the IB exams, my IB coordinator asked me about the 6 institutions I wanted to send my official transcripts to, and I sent her the names of these 6 universities. University of Toronto in Canada, University of Tokyo in Japan, Yale University in the US, Bilkent University in Turkey, Middle East Technical University in Turkey, and New York University Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Honestly, I had not finalized my college list by then, and I somehow gave these names just to avail IB's free transcript service. I did know that I would be filling out applications to US universities in my gap year. However, according to the condition of the free transcript, you can only select one institution from the US. So I chose Yale University. And if there were no conditions as such, I would have selected all the 6 transcript requests for US universities. Unfortunately, my free transcript request for NYU AD went in vain because I confused it with Abu Dhabi University. By mistake, I selected Abu Dhabi University instead of NYU AD and sent my college transcript list without verifying it. In addition to this wasted request, 2 more transcript requests went in vain because I ended up not applying to those universities, and these schools include the University of Tokyo and Middle East Technical University. Fast forward to 2020. I was in my gap year, eagerly applying to 12 US institutions plus a Canadian one. Hence, I was required to submit official IB transcripts to 13 universities. Since I had already sent my official transcript to the University of Toronto and Yale University in grade 12th, I did not have to send it to them again. Removing them from the list, I had to request 11 more transcripts from the IB for the remaining 11 institutions I was applying to. In December 2020, I placed an order for these requests, and it cost me $17 for each transcript request. Unfortunately, IB doesn't provide fee waivers for their paid service, so in total, I had to pay $187 or about 14,600 rupees for all the transcript requests. Sending official transcripts to US universities was a huge expense for me and one that I didn't expect. So be sure you know how to request official transcripts for US universities from your exam conducting institution and how much it would cost you. I didn't know how to avoid this expense at that time. However, as a financial aid seeking applicant, there was an alternative path that could have helped me reduce this payment a lot, or at least a little bit. I didn't know it then, let me tell you. If you are on a tight budget and sending either an electronic transcript or a paper transcript from your test conducting organization to several US universities can cost you a lot of money and can be a financial burden for you and your family, a good course of action is to request your universities to accept the electronic version of your transcript via email from your school counselor or school head. Most universities that offer full financial aid to all admitted students will definitely consider your request and will most likely approve it. However, some may not, and that's okay because you'd save a lot of money even if a few of them approve your request. I couldn't use this tactic to reduce my transcript sending fee, but I definitely used it to reduce my next expense, sending test scores to US universities. After you take an English language proficiency test, you must submit its scores to the universities that require them. Every university has a different set of requirements for proof of English proficiency. For example, some say that if you have studied in a high school with English as the primary language of instruction, you don't need to submit your IELTS or TOEFL scores. While others say that if you are a non-native English speaker, then you must submit your English test scores no matter what. Now, English proficiency isn't a factor for admission into universities. It's just to check whether you're proficient and fluent enough to be able to handle the rigor of the program, and that English communication won't be a hindrance to your success. I knew this back then, but what confused me was the different English requirements for the universities I was applying to. Harvard said it didn't require an English test, while MIT recommended it. Princeton, on the other hand, placed conditions on its exemption. So I wrote a separate email to each of the 12 admission teams of the US universities and asked for clarification on the English requirements. In the email, I mentioned my English background, my exam scores, and asked whether or not I was required to send my English proficiency test scores. If you are curious, here is the email I wrote. Dear admissions team, hope this email finds you well. I am Zuhair Ansari, a non-native English speaker and an IB DP graduate, currently residing in India. I have completed my entire secondary education in India and at a school where English was and is the primary language of instruction and documentation. Also, I have successfully completed the IB-PYP, IB-MYP, Cambridge IGCSE and IB-DP with English as the medium of instruction and examination. Additionally, in my IB-DP May 2020 examination, I have secured a 7 in English BHL. However, I want to inquire whether my background will allow the requirement of English proficiency exams to be waived off, or will I still have to submit an English proficiency test as a proof of language proficiency. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you for your help and support. So here, you can find this email on my blog, which I will link in the description below. Feel free to use it, but do personalize it to your background and needs. I sent this same email to all the universities, and apart from Brown, Cornell, Dartmouth and Yale, all the universities directly or indirectly told me that I wouldn't need to submit my English language proficiency test scores based on the background I mentioned in the email. My school background and educational background allowed them to exempt me from the requirement. But maybe you might not receive an exemption based on your background. So don't think that because I got an exemption as an international student, you too are exempted. That's not the case. Everybody has a unique language background. So be sure to share your background in the email before asking for an exemption. Now, my next job was to send my IELTS results to the 4 US universities that required them. The process of sending IELTS results is quite simple and cheap compared to sending SAT or ACT results, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you don't know, the IELTS score report is called the Additional Test Report Form or ATRF. And on the IELTS candidate portal, you can request 5 ATRFs for 5 universities free of charge. And after 5 free electronic ATRFs, you will be charged a fee of 250 rupees or approximately 3.2 US dollars for each additional ATRF you request. You can also send a physical copy of your ATRF, but it will cost you 400 rupees per request for ordinary post and 1500 rupees for each courier request. It's really convenient and cheap to send IELTS results electronically. However, some US universities might not accept your IELTS results electronically, so you will need to send it to them by post or courier. Therefore, before you place an ATRF request, make sure you have checked with the universities and particular departments about the format of IELTS results they accept. Fortunately, the 4 universities that required IELTS results from me were all accepting IELTS results electronically, so I didn't have to worry about the physical delivery of my IELTS results. In India, the process for requesting ATRFs and sending IELTS results is quite smooth today, but in 2020, it wasn't that smooth, especially if you registered through the British Council. There were no official tutorials or guides about sending results to global institutions electronically. Overall, it wasn't very clear, but I somehow figured it out through online resources. I filled out an online ATRF request form which was available on British Council's website, and along with the 4 US universities that had requested my IELTS results, I also added the University of Toronto because they also required my IELTS results. At that time, the fee for one ATRF request was 200 rupees, so it cost me 1000 rupees to send my IELTS results to 5 universities. If you exclude the University of Toronto, as it is a Canadian university, the expense was 800 rupees or approximately 10 US dollars. In case the 6 universities that required my English test scores did not exempt me, I would have paid an extra 1200 rupees or about $15 to send my IELTS results. Now, if you reside in India, you might know that British Council no longer conducts the IELTS test in India, so your only option is to take your IELTS test with IDP and send results through IDP's website, which has a smoother process in my experience. Before moving on, an important note for you is that if you have good IELTS scores, your universities recommend that you submit the English test results and you have the financial backup to bear the expenses. I highly recommend that you send your test scores to these universities because it will help your application, as the universities will have another metric to analyze your capabilities. If you are meeting the 3 conditions, you shouldn't have any reason not to send your good English test scores. It's worth spending a few thousand rupees to present a better profile to the admissions committee. And the same is true for the standardized test results. Also, my situation was quite different because I neither had a great IELTS score nor enough financial backup to send my scores to all the universities. So I had to take the route I had just shared. Your situation might be very different, so take calculated steps accordingly. Apart from sending English test scores, standardized test scores also need to be sent to US universities. Of course, as most US universities are test optional with the standardized testing requirement, you can choose to send or not send your results to these universities. If you have taken a standardized test, be it the SAT or the ACT, and want to send its scores to the universities you have applied to, the College Board and the ACT offer you the opportunity to send the score reports to 4 institutions free of charge. However, after 4 free reports, you will be charged a fee for each additional score report you send. Now, the time you have to use your 4 free score reports varies for the SAT and the ACT, but for both of them, you can only send free reports before the results are released, which means your score will be sent even before you know how you performed. However, you can also send your score reports after seeing your results for a fee of $12 per report for the SAT and $16 per report for the ACT. This score sending fee can't be waived except if you get an SAT or ACT fee waiver. In that case, you can send your score reports to as many colleges as you like for absolutely no charge. But as I said before, that's only for US residents. Hence, international applicants residing in other countries have no option but to pay the score sending fee if they wish to send their standardized test scores. As for me, I decided not to submit my SAT scores, neither for the SAT subject tests nor for the SAT general, because I didn't have excellent test scores and top US universities went test optional for the fall of 2021. So I had no cost associated with sending standardized test scores to universities. However, I would recommend everyone to take a standardized test and submit their scores to US universities because it helps you improve your profile in a really competitive applicant pool. Unfortunately, I realized its importance only when it was too late. Again, I will reinforce what I stated earlier. My financial condition was quite weak, and applying to these many universities was really challenging. So I had to figure out ways to spend as little as possible while presenting a good profile. But your situation and circumstances might be different, and if they are financially strong, do use all the opportunities to improve your profile and candidature. So, after you have completed the application requirements for all the US universities, it's time to fill out the financial aid application, assuming you are applying for financial aid. The irony of the US financial aid application process is that you need to pay money to ask for money, meaning once you fill out the financial aid application, that is the CSS profile, and want to send it to the universities that require it, you will be charged a fee for each institution by the College Board. What's the fee for sending the CSS profile? It's $25 for the first institution and $16 for each additional institution you add. The $25 charge includes the application fee of $9 and a college reporting fee of $16. Basically, College Board charges the application fee only once, regardless of the number of universities you send your CSS profile to, and adds a college reporting fee on top depending on the number of schools you add to the sending list. If you are a domestic applicant, you have the option of federal aid provided by the US government, which you can apply for by filling out the FAFSA. It's free and won't cost you any money unless you are seeking help from a third party to fill it. Apart from federal aid, you also have the option of institutional assistance provided by different US universities, which you can apply for through the CSS profile. Now, if your annual family income is less than $100,000, you can basically send your CSS profile for free to as many institutions as you like through the College Board's official CSS profile fee waiver. However, if your income exceeds that threshold, you will be charged $25 for the first school and $16 for any additional submissions. Even though you are charged a fee above this threshold, you can get it waived too through the institutional CSS profile fee waiver, which I'll discuss in a minute. But before that, what about international students? The policies for international students are a bit different and the opportunities are fewer compared to domestic students. In short, you are neither eligible for federal aid by the US government nor for the College Board's official CSS profile fee waiver. Hence, the only way to get your CSS profile fee waived is through institutional CSS profile fee waivers, which are fee waivers that are provided by specific universities to students in need. It's not super easy to apply for these fee waivers, and the process of requesting them differs for different universities. That's why I've created a dedicated video on how to apply for the institutional CSS profile fee waivers, their eligibility criteria, and the step-by-step process I used to get them. If you want to know more, I highly recommend you watch that video by clicking the link up here or down in the description below. It has benefited many students, and I'm sure it will be worth the time whether you are a domestic or international student. When I applied for the institutional CSS profile fee waiver at US institutions, 4 of them, including Amherst College, Cornell University, Columbia University, and New York University Abu Dhabi, instantly approved my request and waived the CSS profile fee based on my family's financial background. In no time, I was able to send my CSS profile to these 4 institutions, and that too free of charge. With just these 4 fee waivers, I was able to save 25 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16, which is 73 US dollars, thanks to the generosity of Amherst, Cornell, Columbia, and NYUAD. Yale University and Dartmouth College also approved my CSS profile fee waiver request by telling me to fill out an alternative financial aid application form similar to the CSS profile called ISFA and submit it via email. I tried filling it out electronically, but it wasn't feasible. So I decided to get a hard copy of these forms. There were 10 pages and it cost 10 rupees per page for a colored printout in my locality. However, my school principal helped me with that and I got 100 rupees worth of colored printouts for free. Now Harvard University also offered a CSS profile fee waiver by asking me to fill out an alternative financial aid application form on their website. However, I couldn't fill it out due to the lack of time, so I decided to pay Harvard's CSS profile fee along with the fee for 4 other US universities that didn't provide me a CSS profile fee waiver. These include Stanford University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, University of Pennsylvania, and Brown University. Sending the CSS profile to these 5 universities cost a total of $80 or approximately 6,250 rupees. It should have cost $89. However, College Board somehow waived the application fee and just charged the college reporting fee for 5 universities. It's probably because I had used the CSS profile fee waiver codes for other colleges before. And when you use a fee waiver code for the CSS profile, College Board doesn't charge the application fee. So maybe when you send the same CSS profile to another college that isn't providing the fee waiver code, College Board waives the application fee from their side as they know you used a fee waiver before and you are a student in need. I hope it made sense. I don't know the official reason. This is just what I think. If you want to know more about fee waiver codes, I have explained it in my CSS profile fee waiver video. So do check it out once you have watched this video to understand all the options thoroughly. Now, what about Princeton University? Interestingly, Princeton University doesn't require the CSS profile. Instead, it has its own financial aid application on its portal, which is free for both domestic and international students. Hence, I was able to fill it out and submit it without any costs. Overall, I saved a total of $105 or about 8,200 rupees using the institutional CSS profile fee waiver from 6 universities. And I spent $80 or approximately 6,250 rupees for submitting the CSS profile to 5 universities that couldn't offer the fee waiver, except for Harvard where I myself couldn't use their fee waiver. Apart from all of this, I got many printouts of my family's financial documentation to submit on College Board's iDoc. If you don't know, College Board's institutional documentation service is called iDoc, and it collects financial documents from students and submits them to colleges on their behalf after a student is done submitting the CSS profile. They collect this documentation to verify the information you filled on the CSS profile. I'm not gonna get deep into what documentation I submitted. Still, every university had different requirements, and I had to print and fill out a lot of forms for each university's specific needs. These forms included the student's non-text filer, mother's non-text filer, cover sheet, etc., and were mainly requested by Harvard, Princeton, and Columbia University. It might have cost around 80 rupees for these printouts, but since we are including all the costs of the application process, it wouldn't be right to neglect this expense. Also, US universities will definitely ask for your parents' income tax returns, and obtaining it from the income tax department or your tax consultant can come with a cost depending on your country. Now, the most awaited question: how much did it cost me to apply to 12 US universities from test prep to sending financial aid applications? It is 63,766 rupees, or approximately $816. To summarize the expenses in a table, here is the breakdown of all the costs that the US college application process had for me during the fall of 2021. Remember, all the 12 universities I applied to grant full financial aid to international students, and here is the cost of applying to them. Some students like to take essay editing services, while others seek help from famous college consultants. I didn't use those services, and I won't stop you from using those services. But as I stated in the beginning, the cost for you will vary depending on a number of factors. It may be higher than this, or it might be lower than this. So do look at this table and create an expenses list for yourself, where you write down all the costs that you personally have to go through to protect yourself from getting any unpleasant surprises while applying. The value of most currencies continuously changes against the US dollar. For this video, I have used 1 USD is equal to 78.14 INR as the conversion rate between the US dollar and Indian rupee. For the US college application process, some payments were made in Indian rupees while others were made in US dollars. Hence, the total cost is not 100% accurate. So, when you apply to US universities now, do expect minor variations in these payments with respect to your home currency. Basically, this is how much I spent applying to US universities. Just so you know, I didn't just apply to US universities. I also applied to Turkish universities, Canadian universities, and some international scholarship programs. And they had their expenses too. Because unlike top US universities, they are not much flexible with their application process and are not generous enough to offer fee waivers during the process. As this video is about US universities, I didn't include any costs I had to bear from the application process of universities from other countries. Of course, you will need more money if you are thinking of applying to other countries. Now, if you're curious how much money I saved in the whole US college application process, here is a table that breaks it down. As you can see, I saved a total of 82,100 rupees or $1,050. Overall, I saved more money than I spent in the US college application process. The expenses data shows that for a low to middle income family, even applying in the US is a good enough barrier. Still, we also learn from the savings data that Common App fee waiver alone has dramatically reduced this barrier. If Common App didn't provide its application fee waiver, it would have been financially impossible for me to apply to as many as 12 American universities. So don't forget to watch the Common App fee waiver video if you want to know step by step how to get your application fee waived for your universities. Lastly, I would say yes, the US college application process is expensive, but the application process of universities in other countries is equally, if not more, expensive. If you apply to 10 universities in the US, you do have the option of the Common App fee waiver. But if you apply to 10 universities in the UK, Canada, or Australia, you won't get fee waivers from most of them. Moreover, US universities, especially the top ones, are trying to reduce as many barriers as possible for students in need, even for international students. They are making their application process much more flexible and adding alternatives to their application requirements to cover the needs of specific groups of students. Not to mention, after the admission and financial aid application process, you'll be getting thousands of dollars of aid, most of which you won't have to pay back. So in that sense, this $816 of application cost is nothing. Therefore, I would say that Please don't get too hung up on reducing your application costs or trying to save as much as possible. Yes, the process is a lot about the cost, but it is also about your application and your profile. So use your valuable time and focus more on making your application the best it can be from your end. That's why I've created this video, to share all the costs with you so you can prepare your game plan for the expenses beforehand and complete the process smoothly. If you don't know, I got rejected from all the Ivy League schools I applied to because I made some really big mistakes during the process. If you want to know what those mistakes are and how to avoid them, you should definitely watch this video next. But before that, smash the like button if this video helped you a little bit. Also, please share this video with your friends who are about to go through this process so they can also break down and calculate their expenses. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to see more college related stuff like this. If you have watched this infinitely long video, comment down below I watched till the end. It would really mean a lot to me. See you in the next video. Goodbye and take care.